if you're in your 50s now, or even if you're in your 40s, it's either go time now or we're getting really close to go time, where you need to be thinking about what are some smart money moves you should be making today in order to be as well prepared financially for retirement as possible. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the top 5 money moves that I think you should be thinking about today. I've been a fee-only financial advisor for over 20 years. I've helped guide hundreds of people into retirement and preparing for retirement. And these are my top 5 suggestions for smart money moves to be making today. The first one is I encourage you to take a step back and to think about what is that financial number that you're shooting for. What is your quote unquote your number? How much money do you need to be saving for retirement? What's the total that you need? And I've done a number of videos on this. You can look it up on my channel, but I encourage you to start to write down this number. Let's say it's $750,000. So really, I encourage you to bring out a piece of paper and write it down. Either $750,000, whatever the number is, $1 million, $500,000, and it's different for all of us. But write down that number, and then also write down an age beyond which you no longer want to work. And you know, if you have 10 years until that number, if you have 15 years to that number, I think you'll make a better decision when you're farther away from that actual age and when you're farther away from that actual dollar amount, because the goalposts have a way of moving. And the 4 most dangerous words for somebody getting close to retirement, they're a year or 2 away from retirement. The 4 most dangerous words are just one more year. It's easy to get sucked in into continuing to work even once you've reached that age or once you've reached that financial milestone. And I would encourage you, it's the latter of the 2 that you reach, but you're not going to go past both of those and keep working. So really, write this down. It's a mental exercise that'll help you fight the temptation to continuously move those milestones. And if you're married, if you have a life partner, I encourage you to have this conversation with your life partner while retirement is still 5, 7, 10 years out. I think it will help you avoid that creep that happens all too often, and you end up wasting 1 or 2 years of retirement that are likely going to be your healthiest and your most active. Okay, the second money move that I want you to think about now, while you still have a fair number of years in front of you until you retire, is what is the right asset allocation for your investments? Up until now, you know, if you still have 5, 7+ years until retirement, many people have maybe been 100% in the stock market, or maybe folks have been fearful and they haven't been exposed enough into the stock market. What's going to determine 80% of your investment success, likely more, is your asset allocation. What percent of your portfolio is exposed to stocks? What percent is exposed to bonds? And getting that right while you still have 5, 7, 10 years to go is going to really move the needle for you. And so I really want you to think about that. And it's not just age-based, but it's also risk-based. And people tend to fall in one of 2 categories. Either they're doing better than planned, and so as they get older, I encourage people to take no more risk than what they need to achieve their goals. So if you're ahead of plan, maybe de-risk your portfolio. You know, the nice thing about saving for retirement is you only have to get to the number once. You only have to reach that retirement savings, that magical number once. And then the harder job actually is to not lose that, to not fall down below that number, right? Warren Buffett has a saying, job number one is don't lose money, and job number two for your investment portfolio is never forget job number one, rule number one, I should say. So rule number one is don't lose money. Rule number two is never forget rule number one. And I think that's wise advice by Warren Buffett. And the thing that's going to get you there is your asset allocation. Now, the converse of this is also true. If you're behind, there's a temptation to take more risk. And I would strongly encourage you to fight that temptation, because oftentimes what happens is you take more risk than what you're comfortable with, and then the market goes through a 20% correction, a 30% correction, or God forbid 40, 50%. During the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, peak to trough, the S&P 500 in the US was down just a little, was not quite down 60%, but really close. I think peak to trough, it was down 57%. And you know what? If you've taken too much risk in your portfolio, that's really a rough ride. And a lot of people, not many people can go through that if they're overexposed on a risk standpoint. So I encourage you not to stretch on risk. What I encourage you to do is save more, which leads me into the third money rule, the third smart money move that you can make, which is start taking advantage of the catch-up contributions that we can all take once we're age 50 and above, particularly for your 401ks and your IRAs. With a 401k in 2024, the maximum that an individual can contribute is $23,000. However, if you're age 50 or above, there's a catch-up provision. And that catch-up provision is $7,500 additional that you can put in. So that's a nice way to, that's a third more money. That's significant. So take advantage of that catch-up provision if you don't have a 401k at work, or you're also doing an IRA. There's also a catch-up provision in our IRAs. 2024, the max you can put into an IRA is $7,000. However, again, if you're over 50, you can put in an extra $1,000. So I encourage you to do that. I should say none of this is financial advice for you in particular. I don't know your specific situation. I'm also not an accountant. I encourage you to reach out to an accountant or a fee-only financial advisor to have them give you some help with this. Okay, smart money move number 4 is to pay off your debt if you can in your 50s. Boy, it's great if you can enter your 50s with no debt. Few of us can do that. It's a worthy goal though if you can do it. And the second best is to pay off your mortgage in your 50s. I think that's a good goal to have, but first we want to look at our high cost debt. If you have credit card debt, that's almost certainly higher than your mortgage rate. If you have a car loan, many car loans, if not most car loans, are more expensive than what a home mortgage is. So look at your high cost debt, pay that off. It just gives you freedom, not only to lower how much money you need in retirement if you're not paying this high cost debt down, but it also gives you the freedom to say, you know what, I want to retire early and I don't have this debt hanging over my head. Now, the academic answer, if you have a mortgage, and many of my viewers do, have a mortgage that's at 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%. The academic answer for that is likely you're better off not paying off your mortgage. You can probably do better than that in your investment account. I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know, but the odds are likely in your favor. That's the academic answer, but what's the answer for your heart? Who are you as a person, sleep at night factor? And for many of us, by the time we're getting in our 50s, you know what? We're just tired of having a mortgage. And if we could pay it off, that's gonna take a lot of weight off your shoulder. It's gonna give you some flexibility. If God forbid you were to lose your job, you don't have that debt over your head. Okay, another one is in your 50s is a great time to think about long-term care insurance. Now, I'm not licensed to sell insurance. I don't want to sell insurance. But long-term care is something that I think a lot of people underestimate the likelihood that they're going to need long-term care. And according to the US Department of Health and Human Services, 70% of us, once we turn 65 or older, are gonna need long-term care of some sort. Now, for many of us, it's gonna be a family member that is gonna help us out. But 24% of us, so 70% are gonna need long-term care. Many of us, that's gonna be a family member, but 24% of us are gonna need 2 or more years of paid long-term care assistance. And that can be home care. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a facility for that, but that's significant. And then 15% of us are gonna need a nursing home at some point. So, what's the average cost for long-term care? It goes all over the board. It's $35,000 to $120,000 according to per year, according to some research I did online. In a nursing home, is roughly $100,000 a year. You can spend more than that. You might be able to get it a little less expensively. But in your 50s tends to be the sweet spot where a lot of people look at long-term care insurance. So I encourage you to put it on your radar screen. I encourage you to find a fee-only financial advisor to help you think about whether that's the right solution for you. If you call up an insurance agent, guess what the insurance agent is going to say? Yes, of course you need long-term care insurance, because they're in the business of selling insurance, and I don't blame them. That's what their job is. But long-term care insurance is expensive. It comes with a lot of caveats, and many people drop their long-term care insurance. So unfortunately, when they need it, they paid all those premiums in. But when they need it, maybe it got too expensive and they said, you know what, I'm gonna drop it. So get somebody to help you make that decision. But in your 50s, that's a great thing to do. Another great thing to do in your 50s is to watch this video, which talks about why it's important to look poor. In order to save money, in order to become rich, it's important to look poor. I'll see you in that video. Bye-bye.